Who would animals vote for if they had a choice in the upcoming presidential election? Vice President Joe Biden and his adopted rescue dogs, Champ and Major, or prominent conspiracy theorist and current president of the United States, Donald Trump? Let's break it down.
If on November 3rd of this year, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are elected president and vice president of the United States, the lives of billions of animals, including thousands of human beings, will be saved, often from a very slow and painful death, compared to if Donald Trump and Mike Pence are re-elected. Now, how can I make such a bold statement and such a big prediction about the next 4 years? Now, with people, and especially with politicians, I don't give a fuck what you say. I give a fuck what you do. Actions don't just speak louder than words, they're pretty much the only thing I give a shit about. So if you want a preview to what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will be doing if they get a chance to work in the White House, let's take a look at what Joe Biden and Barack Obama were doing when they worked in the White House.
Let me give you one example. On just one day, with one stroke of the pen, the last legitimately elected president of the United States, Barack Obama, created a marine sanctuary in the Pacific Ocean the size of Texas, California, New York State, Florida, Massachusetts, Vermont, and New Jersey combined. And because he banned oil extraction, mining, and industrial fishing inside the sanctuary, it is no exaggeration to say that one single act saved the lives of billions of animals, including endangered whales and dolphins and species we haven't even discovered yet and didn't even know existed. And that was just one single signature, but it was part of democratic actions that led to the protection of earth and ocean and all the wild animals that live within them, equivalent to the size of all of Germany, France, Italy, Spain, Sweden, and the United Kingdom combined. And that's on top of hundreds of other actions, like making the biggest cuts in cancer-causing, birth defect-causing, climate-destroying, mass extinction-inducing greenhouse gases and toxic air pollution in human history. Truly monumental progress that orange moron is working on murdering every single day that criminal still lives in the White House. And Mike Pence will be no different. But both political parties are the same, right?
So the only thing that matters right now, before I continue with this video, is that we get it to people who live in the battleground states that will decide the future of the United States and to a large degree the future of the planet. So here's a list of those battleground states, and here's a list of the battleground Senate races that will determine whether Joe Biden has that $2 trillion at his disposal to deal with the climate emergency. If you don't live in the United States, tag your friends and family who do live in the United States. If you don't have any friends and family in the United States, still leave a comment and give this video a thumbs up. That will increase the amount of people who see it.
Now, if you want to do more to raise awareness on the consequences for animals of this election and politics in general, beyond just sharing this video and tagging your friends, which I would greatly appreciate, you can take a picture or video with your own four-legged loved ones and hashtag it Animals Against Trump and use the caption or use the video itself to explain to people how this election has massive life and death consequences for animals as well as humans. For all the evidence, remember to check the original article. You can find both of those linked in my bio at GaiaZai.
Now, if we want to take a bird's eye view as to how the policies of a president affect animal rights, and not just a president, pay attention to your congressional, pay attention to your Senate elections, and everything I'm about to say here really applies to governments in general, to every country in the world. We could divide it into 5 major categories. So the 5 categories are hunting, wilderness policy, there are policies towards animal agriculture, toxic pollution, and a climate emergency / extinction crisis. So as far as hunting, let's take one example that was barely noticed, not only by the media, but by the vegan community in general, who you think would be paying attention to this kind of thing. So as many of you know, the bullets that are used to murder animals and to murder people are generally made out of lead. Hence the saying, fill them up with lead. Now the thing about lead, as many people know, is that it's extremely toxic. So what that means is that when hunters kill animals, and as they often do, just leave the carcasses there, especially when they're using shotgun shells and they're killing many birds at a time, those dead animals will fall into the ground, fall into the lake, and often be eaten by scavengers, or their bodies will decompose and the lead will find its way into the ecosystem. As a result of that, it is estimated that across the United States, approximately 20 million animals are killed with lead poisoning each year, just as a result of the murder, aka hunting of animals on public lands. Now, because of that, the Obama administration banned lead ammunition on public lands. No, Obama didn't ban hunting, we all wish he did, but no president is going to be able to outlaw hunting until there's far more vegans in the United States and far fewer psychopaths. But by banning hunting, he saved the lives of 20 million animals. And the way that you die from lead poisoning is extremely slow and painful. Essentially, lead destroys the ability of your nervous system to function. So animals who die of lead poisoning will basically start twitching. They will lose the ability to fly if they're birds, lose the ability to swim, and lose the ability to walk, and will often die as a result of starvation, as a result of thirst, or as a result of not being able to breathe when their lungs finally stop functioning. It's a fucking torturous way to die, and 20 million animals have been killed that way each year since Trump reversed Obama's ban. If that was the only difference between Trump and Biden, between Republicans and Democrats, that would be a reason to vote Democrat. And I want to emphasize this. It's not just Trump being an evil piece of shit. The reason that he did that, he doesn't care one way or another about hunting. The reason he did that is because the NRA and hunters are a fundamental pillar of the Republican Party. And that's a fundamental reason that Republicans and Democrats are different. As you'll hear with a lot of things I'm about to say, the fossil fuel industry is a fundamental pillar of the Republican Party. And the animal agriculture industry is a fundamental pillar of the Republican Party. Hence the massive differences between Republicans and Democrats on so many issues that affect animals. While we're still on the topic of hunting, Trump also reversed an Obama-era ban on the shooting, gassing, and trapping of hibernating bears. Hibernating mother and baby bears are now allowed to be gassed in their den, to be murdered in their den, inside wildlife refuges, thanks to Donald Trump. Every single Republican senator, every single one voted in favor of that bill. Every single Democratic senator, including Kamala Harris, voted against it when the Republicans reversed that ban that was put there in the first place by the Obama-Biden administration.
And all that progress that was made under Obama was with no pressure, absolutely no involvement from the vegan and animal rights movement. Can you imagine what would happen if the 20 million vegans in this country, and rising, didn't just show up at the ballot box, but we stood the fuck up and became an outspoken pillar of the Democratic family, alongside the movement for universal health care and fair wages. What's up? Alongside immigrants' rights groups. Alongside LGBT members of the armed forces. Alongside women fighting to protect themselves from sexual molesters like that treasonous piece of shit who still lives in the White House. And alongside a movement against police brutality and murder. And if you are going to get involved in the blue team, bring Beyond Burgers to their barbecues. Bring vegan cookies to their meetings. I haven't spoken to anyone who is progressive, who had anything against veganism. Most of them are very interested. A lot of them seem frankly embarrassed that they still eat animals. So help them. Share the recipes, the documentaries, etc. There is literally no better place that you could possibly be doing vegan outreach and kill two birds with, whoa. Feed two birds with one scone. There's already enough of us in this country, in every swing state, that if we took enough time to vote, as we do to choose a damn filter on Instagram, the Republicans would never win the White House again, as long as they stand for brutality and cruelty towards the innocent. And if we are the reason that Democrats keep winning over and over again, you best believe our voices will matter in government, just like they already do out in California, where vegan Democrats are on the verge of outlawing animal experimentation for cosmetics. Or right here in Brooklyn, where the borough president, a vegan Democrat, is bringing plant-based education and plant-based meals into our schools. And in 3 cities out in Cali now, Democratic councils have succeeded in outlawing the bloody fucking fur industry, and we're just getting started.
The Republicans have also been waging a so-called war on wolves throughout the United States, which I encourage everybody to read more about, especially if you're a dog lover such as myself. That's, by the way, if the camera movements are jerky at all, it's this guy's fault. And the reason they're fighting a war on wolves, again, not because they're just randomly evil and hate wolves, it's because when wolves are given endangered species status, that means that the land that they live on cannot be exploited for oil, that the wolves cannot be shot by NRA-type psychopaths. It means that cattle can't graze in the land. The existence of wolves is a problem for those key pillars of the Republican Party, and it's obviously not as much of a problem for Democrats who are actually protecting them. Now let's talk about animal agriculture. Now this is one of the areas where I'd like to see far greater differences, far faster progress by Democrats, but there still is massively important differences between Trump and Democratic policy. So first of all, we've seen Donald Trump accelerate the pace of slaughter within slaughterhouses. We've seen him put factory farmers in charge of the Department of Agriculture to just advance whatever policy they want. On the Democratic side, we have seen from the local level a push towards plant-based meals in schools. We've seen at the national level thanks to vegan Senator Cory Booker, but also co-sponsored by Bernie Sanders. We've seen a push to outlaw factory farming, but of course we'd like to see much greater progress much faster. So how do we accomplish that? Let's look to the environmental movement for inspiration. Okay, now let's talk about toxic pollution. Now this is one of the policies that most directly affects humans, although everything I mentioned earlier also of course affects humans. So when it comes to toxic pollution, we're talking about enormous quantities of not just lead, but also mercury and arsenic entering into the ecosystem. That means entering into our lungs via the air, our bloodstreams via the water, and our flesh via the food we eat. And it does to animals the exact same thing that it does to us. It causes cancer, it causes birth defects, it causes reproductive problems. And as a result of the fact that Trump is a complete tool of the coal industry, of the fossil fuel industry, he is essentially letting them do whatever they want when it comes to mining, when it comes to pumping these toxic chemicals, these toxic heavy metals into the air, into the water, and into the soil. And that's true as well of a pesticide known to cause brain damage that was banned by Obama, known to cause brain damage in children that was banned by Obama, and that ban was lifted by Trump. He's causing brain damage in American children, not just by talking, but literally causing brain damage via his policies. Lastly, let's talk about the biggest issue: climate emergency and mass extinction. By now you get the point. Trump is an apocalyptic, mass murderous piece of shit. But a lot of people question whether Biden is progressive enough, if he's the right man for the job. Now I think I already made the point in regards to wilderness protection, but let's talk about climate change. Joe Biden has been active on climate change since 1986. Since almost nobody other than climate scientists had even heard of global warming. He's been on the right side of history. He's not always been moving fast enough, but he has been taking action as a senator since 1986. As part of the Obama administration I mentioned, they signed into effect the biggest cuts in greenhouse gases in human history. Specifically, that was done through the Clean Power Plan, which would have eliminated megatons of toxic pollution from power plants. That was canceled by Donald Trump. And Obama-Biden did so by drastically increasing the fuel efficiency, the standards for fuel efficiency for American vehicles, also canceled by Trump. So when we look at Biden's climate plan now, first of all, we can believe him that he's serious based on his action. But second of all, let's look what it actually is. Because thanks to Bernie Sanders, thanks to weeks of negotiations with Bernie Sanders and demands from Bernie Sanders and the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, Joe Biden has put forth the most progressive climate emergency plan in human history. It would vastly surpass even what Obama did. It involves $2 trillion of spending, which would simultaneously help the American economy recover from the coronavirus pandemic and do so in a way that would eliminate the use of fossil fuels in the United States, both from power plants as well as from vehicles. And across the board, put the pedal to the metal of taking America towards an electric future, an all-electric future, an entirely renewable future. And doing that wouldn't just reduce megatons of pollution from the United States, of course, it would set the standard for the world. It would help solar power take over the world as it's already doing based on economics, and it would help electric cars take over the world as they're already doing because they're superior to gas-powered cars and because they're vastly cheaper to operate. Electricity is 10 times cheaper than gas. People just need help to be able to afford the cars, which is what Biden wants to do, and they need more charging stations. Biden wants to install 500,000 electric car chargers across America and essentially revive the American auto industry on an entirely electric basis. And by the way, to anyone out there who's going to point out the problems with electric cars, yes, the lithium in the batteries, yes, there are negative issues with batteries and with electric cars. And guess what? There's negative issues with veganism. There's negative issues with plant-based agriculture. But it's astronomically better than animal agriculture. And electric cars are astronomically superior to toxic fueled vehicles for a million reasons. But as far as the problems with lithium-ion batteries, one of the many aspects in Joe Biden's extremely comprehensive climate plan is the research and development of future battery techniques, which will not even use lithium at all, which will not only be cheaper and therefore help accelerate the adoption of electric cars, but they will be far more environmentally sustainable as well. So that's it. Just vote for Joe Biden. We're all good. Is that it? No, of course not. Like I mentioned earlier, we need to be pushing them to make faster progress, to prioritize these actions for animals. It's going to be a lot easier to get Biden to simply reenact a policy that him and Obama already had than it is to write a new law, but they are going to need reminders. So sign all those petitions, get involved over social media, and let's push him to do these things immediately. Although a lot of things he's already pledged to do on day one, on January 20th, 2021, if he's sworn in as president. But also, like I said, get involved on the grassroots level. Democrats' key issues right now are climate change. So obviously you should be vegan already if you care about that. Healthcare, obviously you should be vegan if you don't want to die. Heart disease is the #1 killer across the United States, and Medicare for all would be a hell of a lot cheaper if fewer people were dying from heart attacks, if fewer people are going to hospitals and require doctors in general. And Democrats care about racial justice, which, as I outlined in this interview with Vigilante Vegan, is extremely closely connected with the fight for animal rights. If you agree with the message in this video, please share it everywhere possible. If you'd like to stay in touch with me, if you're watching this somewhere that is not my Instagram page, that is by far the best way to stay in touch. It's @GuyIsI on Instagram. I'm going to be sharing a lot more information between now and Election Day. And please ask yourself if you've got friends in the battleground states, states that are the most important. That's who you need to share this information with. That's Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Ohio, Iowa, Florida, Texas, Georgia, Nevada, and Arizona. Those are going to be the states that decide the future of America and the future of the world. And also look up the battleground Senate races. Biden's climate plan is only going to manifest if he's got a Democratic Senate to enact it and a Democratic Congress. Thank you so much for listening. Let's get Donald Trump the fuck out of the White House and send him to prison where he belongs. Thank you.